Good afternoon. I suppose this is what I should say. Excellent. Good. Well, thank you for that warm introduction and for getting the pronunciation of my surname right. In any given day, I get several variations of pronunciations of my surname, but you got it spot on. It gives me great pleasure to be here this afternoon. This is my first public engagement since my appointment 6 weeks ago as Prisons Minister, and it's a special pleasure to be here. The MOJ, as I'm discovering, has got wide-ranging responsibilities for a whole number of issues and situations that, as prisons, probations, and also sentencing minister, I find that it is a huge responsibility and much bigger than I thought when I first accepted the job. But I'm also aware that in order to do any new job, it is most important in the early stages to listen to, engage with, and talk to those at the front line and those who have committed their life to working in that particular area. And I've been visiting a number of prisons, talked to a number of stakeholders, but that's another reason why it is a special pleasure to be here today. Of course, the Butler Trust is renowned for its tireless work to improve UK prisons and recognise the innovation and achievements of frontline staff who are critically important to the work that happens in our prisons. And I'd like to say at the outset that the new team at the Ministry of Justice, from the Secretary of State Liz Truss down, is committed to prison reform. Prison reform and safety is non-negotiable as far as we are concerned. And that is another reason why today's conference is particularly important. So far, I understand you've heard from a triumvirate of well-needed professors, Alison Liebling of the Institute of Criminology here in Cambridge, Fergus McNeill from the University of Glasgow, and not least Tony Ward, who has travelled across the hemispheres and time zones from New Zealand to share his good life model for rehabilitating offenders. I look forward to meeting and discussing directly your ideas with you over the coming weeks and months, but this is exactly the sort of forum and discussion we need for reform to be successful, and I'll come to why in a second. You have also heard from two from impressive governors, Pierre Sinha from HMP Risley and Ian Blakeman, in charge of one of the 6 reform prisons. Ian has been unshackled from centralised control and has spent the summer enjoying his new freedoms. This event is also special because it brings together academics and frontline prison staff, and I think that is particularly important. I think to really come up with reform ideas that work. Frontline staff are important, but also academics that have a bit of distance and are doing research are also critically important to that discussion. And non-surprisingly, the event here today showcases the kind of rigorous, evidence-based, good practice and creativity that will drive our reform agenda on the ground. So what do we want to see? We want to see all prisons run by governors capable of providing outstanding leadership, individuals who have the ability, time and resources to manage safety and security risks while rehabilitating offenders. Our goal is to see frontline staff empowered, as was mentioned just as I walked in, working in decent, orderly and well-organized prisons which treat prisoners with humanity, able to spend time developing meaningful relationships with offenders and helping unlock their potential. The Prime Minister has made clear that her government is going to fight burning injustices in our society. The priority is to make Britain a country that works not for the privileged few, but for everyone. And if you want to make the country work for everyone, you have to fix prisons. For 200 years, the state has sanctioned prison as a punishment. In prison, people have made mistakes and have often hurt others in the commission of their crimes. And it is right that they are locked up And I am not starry-eyed about some of the people in our prisons. But at the same time, it is better for us all if imprisoned people do not commit further offences on their release. But also that those people are able to move on to start and build a better life for themselves. Society gains when people are working and paid to put a roof over their own heads. When they are being helped to kick addictions to drugs or alcohol and are supporting their families and children. When they are community role models, not liabilities. That is why the state owes it to society to help make prisons places of reform. And it is why the state should make sure that when an offender recognizes the error of their ways and wants to turn their life around, they are in a good place to make that turn. So safety and reform go hand in hand as far as prisons are concerned. But the question is, how do we progress? And one of the things that I've realized in the last 6 weeks is that everyone has a view of prisons and offending. When I was in the education department, I thought it was just education, but now I realize that everyone has a view of prisons and offending and sentencing. And in a democracy, that these views cannot be ignored and have to be taken into account. But as policymakers, we have a unique role and contribution to how decisions around prisons, offending, sentencing are made. And that unique role is about how we research, understand, marshal, and use evidence to propose policies. Working out how best to improve offender outcomes, I believe, means following the evidence of what is proven to work. For this, we look to you, the academics, scientists, governors, and frontline prisons and probation staff. Professor Lieberling, for example, has devoted many years to scrupulous analysis of measuring the quality of prison life survey data. For the first time, as you have heard, she has sought to make a detailed exploration of the relationship between the moral climate of a prison and reoffending outcomes. Robust, evidence-based contributions such as these, drawn from tens of thousands of offenders over more than a decade, will drive reforms on the ground. I have seen for myself how the quality of life at HMP Coldenby, one of the reform prisons, is being improved. Every offender has a job in one of the many workshops of this industrious jail. And the government, Nick Pascoe, is working closely with the communication and rehabilitation companies to help reform prisoners on their journey to lasting reform, even after they have left his care. So governors and their staff hold down roles of huge complexity. In the course of the working day, we ask them to be both guard and guide, mentor and minder. Increasingly, their work puts them in personal danger, as those of you who follow all the statistics of violence and assaults in our prisons will well know. They are among the bravest public servants whose efforts too often go unnoticed by a public largely oblivious to what goes on behind high prison walls. Nonetheless, they carry on rising to the challenge, and it is a challenge. Yet even the most dedicated governors and staff should not feel they bear the entire burden of responsibility for the condition of offenders in their care. So many arrive in prison having been blighted from an early age by their background and upbringing. I bring to this job my experience as a minister in the Department of Education, where it was all too clear how failures in the crucial early years of learning could dog a child's life. A friend of mine said when I was appointed to this job, "Sam, this is quite a strange morality tale. You are seeing what happens if you get the early years wrong by moving from the early years brief to the prison brief." We saw the benefits of focusing on pupils as individuals and of making early and robust interventions where a child was in danger of falling behind their peers in the education department. By definition, offenders sentenced to prison are amongst the most troubled and troubling individuals in society. At present, too many prisons only magnify their main existing problems. Nearly 1/3 of prisoners on entry to jail admit to having learning difficulty or disability, a figure that is almost certainly an underestimate. This compares with an estimated 2% in the general population. Reading tests, meanwhile, suggest that over half of new prisoners cannot match the level expected of an 11-year-old, and 58% are illiterate. The Cook's Review of Learning and Training in Prisons argued that education should be at the heart of any regime. I could not agree more. Education and training are the gateway to employment and a better future. At present, offenders are tested on their ability to read when they enter prisons. As reforms take root, we would like to see offenders tested at the end of their sentences as well. That way, we can better judge how far they have come with their reading and writing. Rather than the number of education sessions they have attended, a very different measure, and as a result, how effective governments have been in preparing them for a life after prison, for their second chance. At the Department of Education, I was committed to making sure that everyone, no matter their background, upbringing, or education, was given another to make the most of their life. That seemed the best way to tackle social injustice, to close the attainment gap between outcomes for the most disadvantaged in society and the most fortunate. Earlier this year, the former Prime Minister David Cameron spoke of wanting to offer every child who had a difficult start the promise of a brighter future. Some in our country, he said, don't just get left behind, they start behind. Today in Britain, about 1 million children are growing up without the love of a father. A child born in a poor area will die, on average, 9 years earlier than their peers. And in Britain, the scandalous truth is that there are more young black men in our prisons than there are studying at a top Russell Group university. Statistically, black, Asian, and minority ethnic offenders are overrepresented in prisons. BAME prisoners form 14% of the wider population of England and Wales, but comprise over a quarter of offenders behind bars. These are entrenched problems which have been long in the making. About a quarter of offenders are believed to have spent some time in care during their childhood, for example. As for substance abuse, some 64% of prisoners report having used drugs in the 4 weeks before they went into custody. So yes, if we are going to fix burning injustices in our society, reform in prisons is non-negotiable. And although the challenges we face are complex, I am sure that for all offenders, I want to ensure that for all offenders, if they are willing, prison becomes a place of opportunity as well as punishment. Prison should be a place where we pick up the pieces of social failure. And for me as Prisons Minister, it is a huge privilege and responsibility to be in a position to start fixing them. Often, that is a task for our many impressive and dedicated prison officers. Their commitment and professional pride help make prisons better, safer places. The Butler Trust, through its heralded annual awards, rightly champion those members of prison and probation staff who are judged to have carried out outstanding or innovative work with offenders. I was delighted to hear that the Trust has extended its activities to a 2-day summer school held last month here in Cambridge for more than 100 prison officers. Together, they brought over 1,000 years of combined practical wisdom learned on the job. And it is this kind of collaboration that we wish to build on as we press ahead with reform. We want more prisons to be bold about so-called porous learning, engaging with organizations and expertise beyond their walls, instead of teaching prisoners in isolation, in a kind of classrooms that were alien even in their school days. In that spirit, this summer, NOMS invited external organizations to apply for grants worth up to £150,000 to support innovative and creative projects in the 6 reform prisons. We look forward to seeing these ideas aimed at boosting rehabilitation by improving not only education, but the wider prison environment, become practice in the coming months. As more power is devolved to governments, we will also encourage them to draw ever deeper upon the expertise of academics who have already done so much to inform and change public attitudes to rehabilitation. That way, we will achieve more innovative regimes, longer-lasting reforms, safer prisons, and a safer society for us all. Thank you.